So this is my second year here, and I'm always appreciative when John invites me here because I don't come from your world, I come from the media world. And at Business Insider, I cover retail and e-commerce, and specifically Amazon. And it's a really fascinating time to cover it right now as a data journalist, just because of how aggressive Amazon is getting in the logistics industry. And traditionally, I think that the shipping services, the shipping providers and retailers, they always had this symbiotic relationship. And now you're seeing retailers like Amazon and Walmart and Alibaba that want to become completely vertically integrated throughout the entire supply chain. And so what I want to talk about today is Amazon and its new ambitions in getting into the entire supply chain from end to end. And Dragon Boat is something we're going to be talking about today, but that's really just one aspect of it. Amazon really wants to undercut its shipping partners, FedEx, UPS, and in the end, after providing this data, you guys can make your own decision of whether Amazon's a friend or a foe to the industry. But before we get to that and understanding where Amazon is going, we first need to understand what is Amazon. And Amazon is still one of the fastest growing and largest retailers in not just the US, but also in the world. So this is showing you its net sales last year. It did about $100 billion in 2015, which is about 20% year-over-year growth. Now in the US, the e-commerce industry grew roughly 13 to 14% last year, year-over-year. So Amazon's outcompeting the entire e-commerce industry. Retail sector at large growing roughly 3 to 4% year-over-year. So Amazon is really the rocket ship in the industry here. And if they are the ones that are going to no longer become a customer for FedEx and UPS and other shipping providers, then it's really going to cause ripples in the industry. Now, when you think about it, Amazon originating as an e-commerce pure play company, a lot of you as consumers associate Amazon with just e-commerce at large. Amazon has roughly 40% share of the e-commerce market in the US. That's up from the year 2011 when it had roughly 25% share. And e-commerce is where all the growth is coming from in retail. So this is showing you mobile commerce and PC commerce sales, as Brody told you. E-commerce is where all the growth is coming from in retail, and Amazon is by far the biggest player there. Now, the thing with e-commerce is that it's really expensive to operate these businesses, right? Because consumers expect to get the packages to them quickly, and they expect them to get it for free, the shipping aspect of it. And so every year, we're always looking at survey data at Business Insider to see what are you as consumers expecting to see in fast shipping. So this is the most recent data I could find from Deloitte. This was November, December of 2015. And as you can see, last year, US consumers considered anything under 2 days to be fast. And that's a lot faster than they considered to be fast shipping 2-3 years ago. So anything more than 3 days, they consider to be sort of slow and pokey. And Amazon, by far, has been the most aggressive retailer at driving the speed down. But Amazon isn't immune to these costs that other e-commerce retailers are also facing. So as you can see here, the cost that Amazon spends for shipping a year has been totally skyrocketing. Last year in 2015, they spent roughly $11.5 billion on their shipping-related costs. And so this is what I call Amazon's double-edged sword, right? So Amazon is killing it right now. They're just blowing it out of the water. But the more they sell, the more expensive that it is for them to operate. And so Amazon needs to figure out how do they offset these costs. And so this is our historical chart showing you how much Amazon has dished out over the years for shipping-related costs. And as you can see, over the past few years, you have this darker line here, which is revenue that Amazon is now generating from shipping-related activities, such as FBA and Prime program. So Amazon did this in 2 ways, started making money through shipping. Number one, Prime. A lot of you have heard about Prime. This is the consumer-focused program where consumers spend $99 a year, and they get, in exchange, all these benefits, such as free shipping, they get access to Amazon Prime Video, they get access to early products, such as the Fire Phone, the Amazon Echo device, this IoT home device. And as you can see, it's a big part of Amazon's business. They have roughly 80 million members in this Prime program who are paying $99 a year. About 60% of these people are from the US. And the reason why people are signing up for this Prime program and dishing out the $99 fee annually is for the free shipping. The other things that I mentioned, the Prime Video, the early access, the deals, access to the Kindle library, those are just sort of nice to haves, but really consumers are signing up for Prime for the free 2-day shipping. And so with 80 million people paying this $99 a year fee, Amazon's able to offset that free shipping cost. The second reason that Amazon's been able to offset its exorbitant shipping costs is FBA. A lot of you are probably familiar with Fulfillment by Amazon. Third-party brands and merchants are really at the core of Amazon's ecosystem. A lot of people think that they're buying from Amazon. Across the board, the lion's share of products that are sold on Amazon's marketplace are coming from small brands, big brands, and everything in between. And so Amazon said, look, we are a retailer, we are a distributor of brands' products, but we can also be so much more to you as merchants. We can be your pickers, your packers, we can be your customer service, we can be your shippers. And in exchange, sellers are giving Amazon money to handle all those services. And this is going to continue to be the trend because going back to this market share chart, if Amazon continues to be in this dominant position in the e-commerce market in the year 2020, then many brands feel that they're being strong-armed by Amazon. If you're a small brand, in order to stay relevant in e-commerce, you feel like you have to be on Amazon. So now what you're looking at here is a growth chart of those two lines you saw before, the revenue that Amazon gets from shipping and the cost that it spends out of pocket. And as you can see here now, ever since it came out with these two programs, FBA and Amazon Prime, now the revenue it generates from shipping-related services is actually growing faster than its costs. But on a net level, Amazon's shipping costs are still higher than the revenue that it generates from shipping-related activities. So Amazon has made headway in offsetting these costs, but it hasn't completely turned it into a profitable center for it. So Amazon is trying to figure out how do they close this gap, and they're not done. So this is where we enter Dragonboat here. So Dragonboat is this new program that Amazon's been working on for many years, and it's sort of been a secret, a well-known secret in the industry, I guess you could say, where Amazon, they have all these last-mile fulfillment services, same-day delivery, Prime one-hour delivery, but no one ever thought that they would get into your big, enormous front end of delivery, your cargo ships, your cargo planes, and that's what Dragonboat is. So Amazon, again, is trying to fill up the entire fulfillment spectrum. And so what is Dragonboat? Dragonboat really has two components to it. One is these cargo ships that it wants to start establishing routes from China, where it wants to connect with brands over there so that low-cost manufacturing countries such as China and other places in Southeast Asia, and it wants to bring low-cost products to U.S. consumers, but instead of relying on your traditional shipping partners like FedEx and UPS and DHL and your cross-border shopping giants, Amazon wants to do this itself. And another news that came out recently related to Dragonboat is the air cargo aspect of it. So Amazon recently leased out 20 planes from ATSG, and in the fine print of that contract as well, some of you might have seen, Amazon also negotiated the rights to acquire 20% of that company within 5 years. So this chart is showing you the number of air freight planes, that Amazon, UPS, FedEx have. And as you can see, Amazon hasn't really put a dent into UPS and FedEx's fleet, but they are showing that they're not afraid to get into big shipping. So as I mentioned, Dragonboat is just a part of a larger initiative where Amazon wants to become completely vertically integrated, end-to-end fulfillment. So there's many different aspects to this. So we talk about same-day delivery, we talk about these cargo ships, these cargo planes, but there are many different things that Amazon are doing in the shipping front. Delivery drones are just one example, so its latest generation, they're at roughly the 10th or 11th generation of this device. And the current one can fly about 50 miles per hour and carry a 5-pound payload. And the reason that's significant is because 86% of the products that are bought from Amazon are under that payload. So a lot of research firms have been trying to figure out, okay, so what does this mean for the consumer? Is it actually cheaper for them? I mean, this is a new type of device. This has got to be an exorbitant cost for the consumer. But in fact, this is going to cost the consumer next to nil. So consulting companies are saying that if a U.S. consumer wanted a 5-pound product ordered from Amazon and delivered to them within a 10-mile range, it'll cost the consumer just $1 to have it delivered within 30 minutes. I have your traditional fulfillment methods up here. Obviously, a lot more expensive, a lot more slower. I know a lot of the traditional shipping partners as well are working on drone programs, but what this shows is that Amazon is far along in this, and they're not afraid of pushing the fold in drone technology. Amazon lockers. I know lockers are also a big talk of the shipping industry. This is a low-cost fulfillment method for Amazon. Also, in-store pickup. This is a huge advantage that retailers have, brick and mortars in particular, when it comes to this type of fulfillment method. Amazon's just starting to roll out its own brick and mortar stores. And I just want to focus on in-store pickup for a second here. So what this chart is showing you are the percentage of e-commerce orders from various retailers that were fulfilled via in-store pickup. And it's just shocking how many consumers are actually selecting this method. So Sam's Club, obviously owned by Walmart, 30% of their e-commerce orders last year were fulfilled via in-store pickup. Walmart at the end there, you see 8% of their e-commerce orders last year, in-store pickup, Target 6%. So this is gonna be something that, again, Amazon's gonna pursue, and it's an advantage that retailers have over your traditional shippers. But Amazon isn't the only retailer that shipping partners need to be concerned about. There are these other giants. Alibaba in China, for example, which Brody was mentioning, is also getting into cross-border shipping in a very aggressive way. This is public information. They have their own website with all the logistics services that they offer to their sellers. And Alibaba as well they increased their stake in Singpost to 14.5% last year. And so what this chart is showing you is just how big Alibaba is in China. This is the GMV, the gross merchandise value of Alibaba's sales last year. So gross merchandise value, for those who aren't familiar with it, is the value of the products that are sold via Alibaba's sites, Taobao and Tmall, which are the two largest e-commerce sites in China. As you can see in Q4 last year, they sold roughly $125, $130 billion that year. That light line right there is just your trend line. The dark red one is your year-over-year growth line. And similar to Amazon, which had 40% share of the US e-commerce market, the absolute leader in the US, here's Alibaba's share of the China e-commerce market. So again, we're seeing China's e-commerce market continuing to mature. It's growing. And Alibaba is by far ahead of any other retailer there. So if they're pursuing their own fulfillment, their own shipping, this is a big, big opportunity that shippers are going to have pulled away from them. And this is China's e-commerce market structure. It's important to talk about this when talking about Alibaba's potential. What we're looking at here is the B2C versus C2C market structure, or in other words, business to consumer retail or consumer to consumer retail. What we see in emerging retail markets is typically the first e-commerce sites to emerge are your C2C sites, or sites like Craigslist and eBay, where consumers are selling products to other consumers. But once you start seeing this transition to B2C, this orange part of the line, what you're seeing are brands and legitimate merchants that are starting to go online and selling products. And with Alibaba as by far the biggest leader in the B2C market, this just shows, again, another opportunity that shippers are missing out on. So why are Alibaba and why are Amazon doing this? Well, we all know that package volume continues to increase every single year. This chart is showing you the increase in package volume for FedEx and UPS during peak holiday shopping this year. So FedEx had to ship 12% more packages than it did the year prior. UPS had to ship 10% more during the holidays than it did the year prior. And so what happens here is that during peak holiday shopping seasons, you have your traditional shippers that are just so overwhelmed with that volume, and it's such a hard business in order to make ends meet, in order to deliver 100% of those packages on time. And while this year they were able to do a much better job of 100% fulfilling those orders than they have in years past, they still weren't perfect. And in the end, who does this affect? If you as a consumer are ordering something from Amazon and it's not delivered on time when you expected it to, who am I going to call as a consumer? I'm not going to call FedEx, I'm not going to call UPS, because I have the relationship with Amazon. So Amazon in the end is the one that is losing out from these delays. So in the end, these retailers are getting into this business, and so it's up to you to decide whether they are your friend or your foe. Thank you.
Wow, that was excellent. Thank you. Hard to argue there with the real statistics and the data and the tracking. And as I say, Cooper's all about following this for some time now. And when we invited Cooper last year, he was sort of the first analyst that I could identify who really understood that the e-commerce game was really going to be all about getting it in the consumer's hands in the end, and that means logistics and delivery, and that means obviously in this case integrated supply chain. So the rest of the conference we'll be talking about how we're meeting the challenge at various points in the value chain of what the consumer wants. And I would say that one observation of mine about Amazon, since thinking back to when Jeff Bezos introduced the idea of disintermediating bookstores, basically, and then how he's taken that theme further and further along. And I forget who wrote that book. That was a pretty good book about Amazon and the origins of his thinking of calling the business relentless rather than Amazon, because of his relentless pursuit of the lowest possible cost for the consumer, which follows Sam Walton's philosophy, I suppose, which was a great inspiration. But boy, he seems to be doing it. And so, I guess you didn't quite infer this yet, but certainly they feel like, okay, can have more control over what we're doing, and therefore ensure through holidays. We built all these fulfillment centers near the most metropolitan centers, and we can manage it and get it closer, and we can do better delivery. But it's also about cheaper delivery, is it not? I mean, isn't that what they're really after? Is driving that price down to the point where it's cheaper for them to use an Uber model to deliver ultimately than even using postal service through Parcel Select at $1.80 or something.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Brody touched on this as well. I mean, what are brands and retailers compete on ultimately? It's price, it's service, it's convenience. And I think price would rank number one in terms of the consumer's eyes, trying to get the best price. And so Amazon realizes this more than anyone. And they are the ones that have been so cutthroat in absorbing so many costs over the years that many retailers were afraid to do. And one of the advantages that Amazon has in able to absorb those costs over the years and really take the hit year after year, taking losses and losses and losses, is because it operates so many different types of businesses. And so if it has a profitable profit center in one type of business, it can reallocate that into another type of business. And Amazon has proven that it's not afraid of doing that. So just as one example, Amazon obviously operates one of the largest websites in the world. And so it created all this back-end software technology of these servers to support all that traffic. And over time, what Amazon realized was, hey, we can make this into white label software and sell it to other types of businesses. And this ultimately turned into AWS, Amazon Web Services. So Amazon is a technology company, it's a software company, it's a retailer, it's a shipper, it's also a media company with its video services and video streaming. So Amazon can pull from all these different types of profit centers and reallocate it to its cost centers, which right now is shipping.
So Amazon, with Marketplace, is competing with all its customers, but providing them a bigger marketplace to get to market. In AWS, it's sharing its space by providing web services. So where are we in 5-10 years out in terms of Amazon as a total service provider and a carrier? In other words, what we haven't quite approached here yet is, okay, they're probably moving towards doing their own integrated delivery, but will they be doing that for FBA, through FBA? In other words, and through the marketplace where they're already serving their own customers, will they be serving not only their own logistics and whatnot, but will they be serving FedEx's other customers and UPS's other customers? And is this a real game changer?
It is a game changer. And I think Amazon today is considered a consumer company. But Jeff Bezos even as well has slipped up at times saying that, really they look at themselves as providing a service to other merchants. And if you go back to that chart that I showed you where the number of products that are sold on Amazon, what percentage are actually owned by Amazon and what percentage are actually owned by these third-party sellers, the lion's share of products are coming from these third-party sellers. And so where is Amazon going to be 5-10 years from now, to answer your question? I really see them as a full-fledged transportation logistics service. And I really see them as wanting to own cross-border shopping. That's the future. With the rise of the internet and e-commerce, you're not restricted as a consumer to just buy not only what's on your block, but not only just buy what's in your country, but buy from wherever. And Alibaba realizes this as well. So I think 5-10 years from now, you're going to have this two-horse race between Amazon and Alibaba in owning global shopping.
Yeah, please.
pile on there. The two biggest retailers in the world are doing the same thing, right? Alibaba with China and Amazon with Dragon Boat. They're coming at it a little bit differently, and I would tweak a little bit what Cooper said. I think Amazon will be one of the largest integrators. I don't think they're going to invest in a lot of logistics capability. I think they're going to buy up capacity there's 5,000 shipping companies in the U.S. If you look at what happens at Christmas time to UPS and FedEx, that's where capacity lies, and they're all under capacity for most of the year. So they just start commoditizing that and knitting it together into a network, similar to what Alibaba's doing with China. But the two biggest are doing basically the same thing. The writing on the wall is pretty clear, for me at least, that's the strategy.
Audience, I don't see any hands yet. There's one. Is that Brian? Brian,
So one of the things that was discussed earlier was talking about Uber and crowdsourcing, and we have all these delivery services, and we talk about the, I'll call it end-of-year capacity problem. Everybody's ordering at Christmas time. So when do people foresee FedEx, DHL, et cetera, having the drive-up window where the Uber cars are just lined up, 100 at a time going out and delivering, as opposed to the trucks, going out and doing it?
Never. Is my short answer. And the reason I say never is because it'll be a very different model than that. If you look at the models that are out there today, you've got the traditional FedEx, UPS, right? They've got their labor out there. They run their routes every day. They show up the same way they do every year or every day. The next is kind of that middle ground where you've got they've variabilized the cost a lot more, like a LaserShip or an OnTrack or that sort of model, where they're paying on a per piece, and that variabilization has given them a pretty significant advantage in the market. They struggle with quality a little bit, but they'll figure that out. The third is this crowdsourced model, and I think that requires a very different logistics network than the traditional everybody show up at a hub, fill up your car or truck and go out and do your delivery. And so you'll see, and you're starting to see that right now. Uber, for example, with the analytics that they have, they will tell their drivers where the next rider is most likely to come from. Right? So the Uber driver will get a text that says this is probably where they'll be coming from. And when I thought of that the first time, I thought, how would they possibly be able to figure that out? But then I looked at my pattern of Uber usage. Right? If I get one at noon to go to a restaurant, an hour and a half later, I'm probably going to need another one to get back, sort of thing. So what you'll see is a very different network knit together that isn't them pulling up to a depot and filling up, but much more disaggregated than that is my best guess.
Yeah, and I'd echo what Brody's saying. I mean, what Uber's trying to do, and they are investing heavily, it seems like, in this on-demand delivery model. And it seems like it is slow to grow, and that's because this a la carte on-demand model is so expensive to operate, because all they owned is that last mile end of fulfillment. I think where you're going to see on-demand delivery play out is with players like Amazon, who do own the entire spectrum of the fulfillment. And the reason I say that is because Amazon recently also filed a patent with the U.S. Patent Office to put 3D printers inside of delivery trucks. So what Amazon's trying to do is to shrink the entire fulfillment spectrum. And they want to do on-demand 3D printing and manufacturing while the trucks are already out on their routes. So I, as a consumer, can place an order if I'm, say, a construction contract worker, and I want to place an order for a bunch of bolts or machinery, and then Amazon will actually 3D print this in the trucks while it's already out there. So your fulfillment line ends up shrinking dramatically, and Amazon's going to be able to do that on demand.
We got time for about one more question from Bob.
Cooper, this is, and Brody, but for those of you who were at the PIP conference, you heard me get a chance to ask this question to Amazon. And in fairness to them, what they start with is the consumer, and what does the consumer need? And then capacity and the need for to provide it to get the consumer what the consumer wants. But the intriguing question to me, Cooper, it goes to your insight about where this takes Amazon. The idea that they can then source FedEx and UPS and DHL, that they can begin to compete, get the carriers competing with one another. Even greater would be my question to you about, do they then become a different kind of carrier themselves? There's an enormous amount of data there about what a consumers want. Wouldn't Amazon have to actually change its behavior?
Yeah. So two things there. One, I mean, I don't think anytime soon you're going to have Amazon come out with a rebranding campaign of who it is as a company. You know, this is something that is going to play out over the years. And I think that as far as Amazon's concerned, you know, you're not going to be hearing anything from them quite publicly about what's going on here. But, you know, the moves that's going on in Amazon, the patents they're filing, the companies they're acquiring, the different initiatives that they're rolling out slowly, if you put them all together, it's pretty clear to me at least where they're going, where their strategic direction is. And so in that sense, I don't need them to, you know, say out in a public conference, you know, what exactly is their motive there. And also from a competitive standpoint, I don't see why they would want to. The second part of that, I would say, is that how would they become a different shipper? And I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of just how much intelligence they have of consumers. And, you know, I think Jeff Bezos is a brilliant guy, but I mean, if he actually 20 years ago knew that he was going to turn this into a shipping company and wanted to start with the consumer side of it to collect all that data, I mean, wow. I mean, this is the amount of data that they have right now about consumers, and you know, they obviously have that ability right now to do the automatic reordering with their subscription and save program. They have these little Prime buttons that they can put on dishwashers, and you can automatically press it and just reorders the dish detergent for you. I mean, they know exactly who you are, how many kids you have, when your kid you know, has used all the diapers in the house and that you need more, and they can automatically reship those to you. And that type of intelligence and that type of service they can provide seems like it could completely disrupt the shipping and logistics model.
Excellent.
John, just to
yeah.
pile on for just a second. What's fascinating about that data model is that it's, when you say they automatically ship that to you, they can pre-plan the sourcing, the staging, the transport, all of that, so that it's there nearby when they know you're going to need it. And that's how they get cost out and become a very different shipping company, would be my best guess.
Excellent segue, really, Uber. I mean, Brody, to your reference to the data that Uber's collecting to use predictive analytics in essence to understand what consumers want even before consumers want it. And I think Amazon has even patented that, haven't they? The idea that
Predictive delivery.
yeah. We're going to move into the data section after this, and that's going to be fascinating. I think Kathy will lead that, and I'll save for the introductions. But thanks for this time. It's been really powerful. We're going to take so let's thank these guests, please.